Your oil just turned black after 500 miles, and the quick lube shop is lying about why. After 21 years in the shop, I've seen customers waste thousands on unnecessary flushes because a salesperson scared them with a dark dipstick. 80% of the time, black oil is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, but the other 20%? That's a $5,000 engine rebuild waiting to happen. I'm revealing 12 reasons your oil turns black, and the one time it's genuinely dangerous. Let's break it down. 12. The visual lie. The first reason your oil turns black is actually good news, but it feels like bad news. It stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of what modern oil is designed to do. In the 1960s, oil was basically just lubricant. If it got dirty, it meant the dirt was settling in the bottom of your oil pan, forming a thick, tar-like substance called sludge. Modern synthetic oils are chemically engineered with complex additive packages. The most important of these are detergents and dispersants. Think of detergents as the soap that scrubs the soot and carbon off the metal walls of your engine. Think of dispersants as the carrier that holds that trash in suspension. When you pull that dipstick and see black ink, you are looking at oil that is doing its job. It has successfully scrubbed the carbon from your pistons and is holding it floating in the liquid so it can be carried to the filter. If your oil stayed golden honey for 5,000 miles, it would mean the oil is failing to pick up the filth. The filth would be staying on your engine parts, baking into hard varnish. So, the first reason it's black, because it's working. But if the texture changes, if it feels gritty between your fingers, that is a different story. And that grit often comes from the way you drive. 11. The grocery getter killer. This is the silent killer of engines in the suburbs. You have a car that only makes short trips. You drive 3 miles to the grocery store, then home. You drive 2 miles to drop the kids at school, then home. You think you are babying the car because you are keeping the mileage low. In reality, you are torturing the oil. When your engine sits overnight, the metal cools down. Moisture from the air condenses inside the crankcase, just like water on a cold soda can. You have water in your oil pan. When you start the car and drive for only 10 minutes, the oil never reaches its operating temperature of 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius. Because it doesn't get hot enough, that water never boils off. Instead, the water mixes with the sulfur in the fuel combustion byproducts to create sulfuric acid. This acid attacks the oil, breaking down its molecular chain and turning it dark prematurely. It also leads to mayonnaise sludge under your oil cap. If your oil is turning black and you only drive short distances, it's not just carbon. It's chemical decomposition caused by water. Hold on. If you've been enjoying these revelations, please do us a favor. Click like and subscribe. It helps us get this info out to more drivers who need it. But moisture is just one enemy. The next one is a $20 part that causes $5,000 in damage, and nobody ever checks it. 10. The $20 part that kills engines. This is a $20 part that causes $5,000 in damage, and nobody checks it. I've replaced dozens of these in my shop on cars that were about to be scrapped for engine problems. The positive crankcase ventilation, PCV valve, is the lung of your engine. When your engine runs, a small amount of exhaust gas naturally slips past the piston rings and into the bottom of the engine, the crankcase. This is called blow-by. These gases are filled with unburned fuel and soot. The PCV valve's job is to suck these dirty gases out of the crankcase and send them back into the intake to be burned off. If your PCV valve gets clogged with varnish or stuck closed, which happens constantly on cars over 60,000 miles, those dirty gases have nowhere to go. They are trapped inside the engine with your oil. The pressure builds up, forcing the soot and unburned fuel into the oil supply at a rate 10 times faster than normal. Your oil turns pitch black within 500 miles. You change it, and it turns black again instantly. Mechanics will try to sell you a ring job or a new engine, when all you needed was to replace a plastic valve that costs less than lunch. However, even with a working PCV system, the very design of your fuel system might be the culprit. 9. The direct injection dilemma. If you drive a car built after 2012, whether it's a Honda, a Ford EcoBoost, a Hyundai, or a Volkswagen, you likely have gasoline direct injection, GDY. Old engines sprayed fuel into the intake manifold, where it mixed with air before entering the cylinder. This pre-mix kept things clean. GDI engines spray fuel directly into the combustion chamber at roughly 2,000 to 3,000 psi. This creates more power and better efficiency, but it has a nasty side effect: particulate matter. Because the fuel has less time to mix with the air, GDI engines produce significantly more microscopic soot than older engines. This soot is abrasive and incredibly fine. It gets scraped off the cylinder walls by the piston rings and dumped directly into your oil pan. If you don't believe GDI engines are dirtier, look at the emissions data. Engineering studies show that GDI engines produce 5 to 10 times more particulate matter, soot, than older port injection engines. That is why your tailpipes are black. And that is why your oil turns black. You are essentially driving a gasoline engine that produces diesel levels of soot, but you're trying to protect it with standard passenger car oil. It's a losing battle. And if you think direct injection cooks the oil, wait until you see what the turbocharger does. 8. The turbo heat trap. Turbos used to be for sports cars. Now, they are in everything from Chevy Malibus to Ford F-150s. A turbocharger is a fan spun by exhaust gases to force more air into the engine. Those exhaust gases can reach 1,200 to 1,600 degrees Fahrenheit. The shaft of that turbocharger spins at up to 200,000 RPM, and it is lubricated by, you guessed it, your engine oil. When you drive hard and then immediately shut off the car, see myth number 1 from my previous video, the oil flow stops, but the heat remains. The stagnant oil inside the turbo bearing housing literally fries. It turns into hard carbon deposits, a process known as coking. These microscopic chunks of burnt carbon eventually break free and circulate through your engine, turning the oil black and abrasive. If you have a turbocharged car and your oil is turning black rapidly, it is a sign that the oil is suffering from thermal breakdown. It is being cooked to death. But here's the thing, you don't need a turbo to cook your oil. Sometimes the oil itself is the problem, and it starts the moment you grab the cheap jug off the shelf. 7. The cheap oil lie. I had a customer with a 2015 Kia Optima who swore his engine was burning oil. He was losing a quart every 1,500 miles, but there were no leaks on his driveway and no blue smoke from the exhaust. I asked to see the oil bottle he kept in his trunk. It was a generic, store-brand synthetic that cost $19. I explained that his oil wasn't leaking, it was evaporating. We switched him to a high-quality Group 4 synthetic with a low NOAC rating. He came back 3,000 miles later and the dipstick hadn't moved a millimeter. The cheap oil was literally vanishing into thin air. Not all synthetic oils are created equal, despite what the colorful labels want you to believe. You walk into the auto parts store and see a jug of full synthetic for $22 sitting next to a premium brand for $58. You grab the cheap one, thinking, oil is oil, right? As long as it says synthetic, I'm safe. Wrong. You are falling for a marketing loophole. In the US, companies can legally label highly refined crude oil, Group 3 base stocks, as synthetic. Real, premium synthetics, Group 4 or 5, are chemically man-made from natural gas or esters. The difference isn't just price. It is something called NOAC volatility. NOAC measures how much of your oil literally evaporates when it gets hot. Cheap synthetic oil has high volatility. When your engine heats up, the lighter, cleaner molecules in that cheap oil turn into vapor and exit through the PCV system. What is left behind? A thick, concentrated sludge of heavy molecules and additives. As the clean base oil boils off, the remaining liquid becomes darker, thicker, and far more prone to baking onto your engine parts. You are literally boiling off the clean part of the oil and leaving the sludge precursors behind. If you are buying the cheapest jug on the shelf to save $12, you are guaranteeing that your oil will turn black and degrade thousands of miles sooner. You are saving pocket change on the oil change today to spend $4,000 on a new camshaft tomorrow. But sometimes the oil quality is perfect, but the engine seals are failing. 6. The worn ring problem. We previously discussed how a cheap plastic PCV valve can cause pressure buildup, but sometimes the valve is working perfectly fine. Sometimes the problem isn't a clogged breather, the problem is that the engine itself is simply tired. Deep inside your engine, piston rings act as the critical metal seals. They have the impossible job of keeping the massive explosion of combustion up in the cylinder while keeping the oil down in the crankcase. They scrape the walls thousands of times per minute, but over time, especially with poor maintenance, these rings wear down. The cylinder walls get scratched and oval-shaped. The seal is no longer tight. When this happens, the engine suffers from excessive blow-by. Every time the spark plug fires, the explosion seeks the path of least resistance. Instead of pushing the piston down, a significant amount of soot, raw unburned fuel, and exhaust gas shoots past the worn rings and blasts directly into the oil pan below. This violent injection of filth turns the oil black almost instantly, sometimes within 50 or 100 miles of a fresh oil change. The oil is being overwhelmed by exhaust gases from the inside out. How do you know if this is your problem? Use your nose and your eyes. First, smell the dipstick. If the black oil smells strongly of raw gasoline, you have fuel dilution from blow-by. Second, perform the oil cap test. With the engine running, carefully unscrew the oil filler cap. If you see smoke puffing out of the hole in a rhythmic chug, like an old steam train locomotive, your rings are shot. There is no $10 bottle of engine restore that will fix this. I've seen customers pour bottle after bottle of miracle cures into engines with shot rings. It never works. No additive can add metal back to a worn ring. In this case, the black oil is just a symptom of a dying heart. However, sometimes the dying part isn't mechanical wear, but a ghost from the car's history. 5. The time machine effect. You just bought a used car. The previous owner was less than diligent. Maybe they were frugal, changing the oil every 15,000 miles, or using the cheapest conventional bulk oil they could find. The inside of that engine is likely a disaster zone, coated in layers of golden varnish and thick black sludge. You, being a responsible owner who cares about longevity, buy the car and immediately perform an oil change. You pour in a high-quality, high-detergent premium synthetic, something top tier like Pennzoil Ultra Platinum or Amsoil. You feel good, but 2 days later, you pull the dipstick to check the level. It is jet black. It looks absolutely filthy. You panic. You think, I just changed this? Is the engine blown? Don't panic. Celebrate. That black color is proof that your money was well spent. The powerful detergent package in that premium synthetic oil is aggressively attacking the years of neglect left behind by the previous owner. It is dissolving the baked-on varnish from the valve cover. It is scrubbing the sludge off the oil pan. It is cleaning up a mechanical crime scene. The oil turned black because it is holding that dissolved trash in suspension, exactly as it is designed to do. In this specific scenario, black oil is a badge of honor. However, you cannot leave it in there. You should change that oil again very soon, maybe in 500 to 1,000 miles. Flush that suspended garbage out of the engine and do it again. Eventually, the oil will stay cleaner for longer as the engine internals get scrubbed down to bare metal. Quick reminder, if this is clearing things up for you, hit subscribe. I drop videos like this every week. But while powerful detergents can clean the mess, sometimes the filtration system completely fails to capture it. 4. The bypass valve betrayal. Most drivers obsess over the liquid in the bottle. They spend hours researching the best synthetic oil, happily paying $60 for the premium stuff. But then they commit a fatal error. They reach for the cheapest $4 orange or white they can find on the shelf. They don't realize that the filter is the kidney of the engine, and cheap filters have a dirty secret. The problem is that bargain bin filters use cheap, uncalibrated springs. A quality filter might require 15 psi of pressure to open that valve. A cheap filter might pop open at just 5 or 8 psi. This means that for a huge portion of your drive, every time you accelerate or the RPMs climb, that cheap filter is stuck wide open in bypass mode. Your oil is circulating round and round, picking up soot, carbon, and metal shavings, but it is never actually passing through the filter media to be cleaned. The contaminants just keep accumulating, turning the oil darker and darker, faster and faster. You are essentially sweeping the floor every day, but never using a dustpan to pick up the dirt. You are washing your hands in dirty water. If your oil stays black despite frequent changes, stop blaming the engine and look at the brand of filter you screwed onto it. But if you think gasoline engines are bad, diesel owners have it 10 times worse, and most of them are panicking over nothing. 3. The diesel factor. I had a new diesel owner call me in a panic last month. He had just bought his dream truck, a brand new Ford F-250 Power Stroke. He did his first oil change at 1,000 miles, checked the dipstick, saw it was black, and immediately drained it again. He wasted $300 on 3 consecutive oil changes in one afternoon, thinking he had contaminated the engine. I had to explain that if his diesel oil wasn't black, I would be worried his EGR system was clogged. He was trying to fix a feature, not a bug. In a diesel engine, this is 100% normal, yet it scares new owners every day. Diesel engines operate on a completely different principle than gasoline engines. They use massive compression ratios, often 20:1, to ignite the fuel without spark plugs. Because diesel fuel is heavier and dirtier than gasoline, this combustion process naturally creates a tremendous amount of soot and particulate matter. This soot blows past the rings and enters the crankcase instantly. Diesel engine oil is chemically engineered with a massive load of heavy-duty dispersants, specifically to handle this soot loading. It is designed to turn black. That color means it is grabbing those carbon particles and preventing them from turning into sludge. If you own a diesel, you must delete the eye test from your maintenance routine. Do not judge the oil by its color, ever. It will be black before you even back out of the driveway. The only way to know if diesel oil is actually bad is to send a sample to a lab like Blackstone for analysis. If you try to change your diesel oil until it stays clear, you will go bankrupt within a month. But while black oil is safe for diesels, for gasoline engines, heat is the ultimate enemy. And nothing creates heat quite like friction. 2. The heat. Death. We've discussed how turbochargers cook oil, but here is the scary truth. You don't need a turbo to destroy your engine oil with heat. It happens naturally through a chemical process called oxidation. Think of a slice of apple you leave on the kitchen counter. Within 20 minutes, it turns brown. That is oxidation. Oxygen molecules in the air attacking the organic material of the fruit. Your engine oil is organic material too. When it is exposed to the extreme heat of an internal combustion engine, which operates at over 200 degrees Fahrenheit, in the presence of oxygen, it begins to chemically degrade. As oil oxidizes, its molecular structure changes. It doesn't just get dark, it gets thick. The viscosity shoots up. It transforms from a smooth, flowing lubricant into a sticky, tar-like sludge. This thickened oil struggles to pump through the tiny passages of your engine, especially on cold starts, leaving your bearings unprotected. This process is accelerated drastically by heat. For every 18 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 degrees Celsius, increase in oil temperature, the rate of oxidation doubles. This is why where you live matters. If you live in Phoenix, Las Vegas, or Dubai, your oil is under constant thermal assault. If your cooling system is slightly weak, or if you tow a boat, or even if you sit in gridlocked traffic with the AC blasting, your oil temperature is spiking. This is exactly why your owner's manual has a hidden section called Severe Service. Most drivers ignore it. They think, I don't drive a police car or a taxi, so I am a normal driver. Wrong. If you drive in stop-and-go traffic, hot weather, or short trips, the manufacturer classifies you as severe. That means you cannot follow the standard maintenance schedule. The heat is oxidizing your oil into black tar thousands of miles before the dashboard light reminds you to change it. Which brings us to the number one reason, the ultimate lie that makes your oil turn black and kills your engine. 1. The manufacturer interval lie. Why does your oil turn black and eventually transform into engine-killing sludge? Because you made the mistake of trusting the sticker in your window that said 10,000 miles. Car manufacturers are currently locked in a vicious marketing war to lower a metric called predicted cost of ownership. They need to prove to prospective buyers and massive corporate fleet managers that their vehicles are cheaper to maintain than the competition. They want to be able to print a brochure that says, hey, buy our car. You only have to visit the dealership once a year. To achieve this, they artificially push the recommended service intervals from the traditional 3,000 miles up to 5,000, then 7,500, and now to a ludicrous 10,000 or even 15,000 miles. Here is the dirty truth they won't tell you. The oil base stock might stay liquid that long in a controlled laboratory, but the additive package absolutely does not. Engine oil has a lifespan measured in TBN, total base number, which is its ability to neutralize acid. By 6,000 or 7,000 miles in real-world stop-and-go traffic, that TBN is often depleted. The oil turns acidic. Worse, the dispersants, the chemical agents responsible for holding that black soot in suspension, get completely saturated. They are like a sponge that is fully soaked. They cannot hold any more filth. So where does that dirt go? It falls out of suspension. It precipitates out of the liquid and begins to bake onto hot metal surfaces. It settles into your low-tension piston rings, causing them to seize, which leads to massive oil consumption. It clogs the tiny hydraulic screens in your variable valve timing VVT solenoids, triggering check engine lights. It creates a varnish on your timing chain, wearing out the tensioners until the chain stretches and jumps a tooth. By the time you reach that recommended 10,000 mile mark, your oil hasn't just been black for months. It has been abrasive liquid sandpaper. It has been useless. A massive study of engine failures in European workshops revealed a terrifying trend. They tracked cars with major mechanical engine failures under 100,000 miles. A staggering 72% of those failed engines had been following long-life service intervals of 10,000 miles or more. The data is clear. The manufacturers are betting that the engine will last through the warranty, but the statistics prove that following their advice is the fastest way to become a pedestrian. But the manufacturer doesn't care. Why? Because they know the engine will survive just long enough to get past the 60,000 mile warranty period. Lifetime fluid doesn't mean the lifetime of the car. It means the lifetime of the warranty. After that expires, the sludge-filled engine becomes your financial problem, not theirs. You just learned 12 reasons your oil turns black and how to tell the difference between normal and catastrophic. Start today. Pull your dipstick, smell it, and check for grit between your fingers. Takes 30 seconds. But here's what most people miss. Even perfect oil can't save you from the wrong fuel. I'm exposing the 11 gas station brands that are silently destroying engines from the inside. Click the video on the left right now.